What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers That Filters podcast, episode 104. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight I'm still getting through my Trulies, but tonight I'm doing the lemon flavor. You don't see lemon seltzers a lot. I would assume they'd be more popular, but I like when I see them.
Very nice.
I'm Joseph, and tonight I'm drinking Spiral Brewery's Downward Spiral. And I bought it purely for the name, but it is an IPA.
Show the can! Show the can! That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, and it's like the sticker, so it's got like a cool texture, and yeah.
I like it.
It got a little thing about it, and it's a Minnesota brewery, so I like to buy a local every now and again when I can. So.
I like it.
Plus the taste is pretty good. I had one the other night, so.
Well, I'm also drinking semi-local from Wisconsin. PBR.
Oh my god!
This is actually Joseph's because right after this podcast I have to go get alcohol. It was a rough week, so I drank a little bit more during the week. I thought I was stocked up, but I was not. So I think this is the first PBR I've had. I don't know, probably since the last time I had on the podcast, honestly.
I was gonna say, it's been a hot minute.
It kind of tastes good. It kind of tastes like college, you know?
It's got that college bite to it.
It really does. And I'm kind of digging it. I like it. Sometimes you have to go back to your roots, you know?
Well, Gabe started a whole new PBR streak from Gabe.
Yeah, there we go.
It's funny that you mentioned going back to your roots, Gabe, because what I am drinking out of the Oceanics mug from Marble Olympics, I am drinking hot chocolate with peppermint schnapps.
There you go.
For our OG listeners, they know that I used to drink this quite a bit in our early episodes. And this shit slaps.
It's white girl dating in the winter.
Now, Dayton, I thought you're gonna venture into the truly iced tea.
You fell right for my fucking trap card. Boom. Boom. Already opened. Dude, I drank a lot of them last night.
Oh, okay. What's the verdict?
I like them. I like them a lot. They're not like a normal seltzer by any means. Like they're still like sweetened. I think they're like, and I think it's artificially sweetened because I think there's only like 1 gram of sugar in it. But like they're pretty good, but I don't think they substitute regular seltzers for me. Like regular seltzers, not as
refreshing.
Yeah, it's not as refreshing, and these just taste like more fake than like a seltzer. I just like kind of like the bare bones taste of seltzers, to be honest.
Do you like them better than the Truly Lemonade?
Yeah.
Dude,
hands
those
down.
were so bad.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those at all.
Those fucking suck.
But also, like, I do kind of want to try the Truly Arnold Palmer. Like, if I don't know if the flavors match up.
Well, yeah, dude. There's a lemon Truly tea.
Oh, okay. So
I've had it, and it tastes pretty good. I like that one. Like honestly, all the flavors of them are solid. There's peach, strawberry, lemon, and raspberry. And I think my favorite is the peach.
Maybe I will have to grab them.
Now I've got ideas because I'm gonna be going. Like I said, I'm going to the liquor store right after this. So
next week, all of us are drinking the Truly iced tea.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll pull the trigger. Stay tuned next week, I guess.
Yeah, they've been promoting him at Admire around here recently, so maybe I'll have to snag
some, yeah, dude.
But yeah, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. As always, you can find our show on Mondays on podcast services and YouTube. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at ewfpodcast, and go ahead and follow us on Twitch at ewf_podcast. We're live right now, except the Saturday, not a Thursday as usual, because, and this leads into my first little story, Dayton.
All right, let's hear it.
Thursday night, about 7:30, 7:40 p.m. We recorded at 8 p.m. I'm feeling good. I'm on the couch, just chilling. All of a sudden, everything goes black. All the power in my apartment just goes the fuck out. Now, was I scared? A little bit. But also, was I surprised? Not really, because my apartment's old as shit. And, like, I've had issues with like, my breaker and stuff. So I'm like, okay, maybe I just got to reset the breaker. But it was weird that the entire like all the power went out. So I go and I peek through the little eye hole in my front door, and the lobby has the emergency lights on. I'm like, that's not good. And then I look out the window, and all of the lights in my neighborhood are out. I'm like, oh shit! Like this is something big, and like it's fucking winter. Like it's cold as shit, and like my apartment loses heat insanely fast. So like I'm hoping they get this shit fixed pretty quickly. And also my phone's at like 15%, which is not ideal. So I'm like, all right. So I called Dayton and I'm like, yo, power's out. I'm not recording tonight. Tell the guys like figure it out. I gotta get out of here. So I left them with my friend Lissa's house. But it was so weird because I was driving out of the neighborhood. Like everything was out. Some street lights were out. It was just like super sketchy until you eventually got back to the where the power was. So it was only a few blocks. Um, so then yeah, I went back to and here's the other important detail. I hadn't eaten dinner yet because that day was just fucked, and I had lunch at like 4 o'clock. And I couldn't reheat food because the power was out. So I stopped and got Wendy's on the way to Lissa's house, right? Give me a nice spicy chicken sandwich, okay, and some fries. I'm like, all
Wendy's
right,
slaps.
Wendy's
Had
pretty
it,
fucking
I
good.
had it yesterday.
Yeah, Wendy's is tasty as hell. So I go to Lissa's, eat my Wendy's, we watch a stand-up special, get a text, power's back, great, go home, call it a night. Wake up the next morning, okay? And I got a virtual meeting with my like lab group at 9:30 a.m. So I rolled to bed around 9:15, It's fine. Throw on a sweatshirt, throw my glasses on, and at about 9:25, I start getting a shooting pain in my stomach. You guys are familiar with when you have to shit so bad it fucking hurts?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
I got a question. Was it a spicy chicken
No,
sandwich?
it was okay. It was a spicy, but
Okay.
it wasn't like the spicy heat pain you
It
get.
doesn't. Okay.
It wasn't like my asshole's on fire. It was like in my like intestines. I was getting that shooting pain that you get every once in a while. And I'm like, I don't have time to take a shit because it's in 5 minutes. And it was like a 45-minute meeting. So I'm in this meeting just trying not to pass the fuck out from pain. So I was like, I need to shit so bad. And eventually, I was so close to sending in the chat, like, I'll be right back and like popping out. But whenever I would type it and then the pain would just subside. I'm like, oh, okay, I can hold it. Like, it'll be fine. And then it would just come back and it was the fucking worst. So Wendy's, you fucked me, okay? I've loved them for a long time. But Gabe, I think what happened was when I went to the drive-thru, they brought out that chicken sandwich a little too fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it'd been sitting out for a hot minute.
I have a very similar story. Me and Joseph were like mountain biking or something. It was probably last April, and I don't know if we got it before or after mountain biking. I think we got it after. So then we go, and they had the 2 for 5. They still have the 2 for 5, but you can get 2 for 5, and you can pick spicy chicken nuggets. There's 10 of them. So I'm like, I want 10 I got 20 spicy nugs, and then they had the new spicy sriracha sauce. So I was like,
Ooh.
that's what I want. That sounds amazing. And I ate them all within, I ate them pretty quick. And Joseph's hanging out. We're hanging out in my front porch. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I am burning a new asshole. I need to go now. It was rough.
Yeah, and Wendy's has never done me wrong in the past.
You play with fire, man. Literally.
I know.
Like,
8 p.m. 8 p.m. on a Thursday. I don't think we're getting their top quality their food.
Yeah, you really aren't.
Probably
But,
not their first stringers out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me
But
and
Gabe,
Joseph.
you mentioned mountain biking.
Mhm.
Is there something you'd like to share with the class?
Boys, Joseph made the announcement that he got a new car. I got something better. Get a mountain bike. Right?
Gabe, you also got a new car recently.
Yeah, but I didn't talk about it on the podcast. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I've almost had that car for almost a year now.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was not that long ago, but it wasn't.
Yeah, like
7
9
8
months.
months.
Anyway, sorry. New mountain bike.
So this all started like last week, 2 weeks, a week and a half ago. So for context, I had the same bike that Jacob had before it got stolen when he moved in. It's
Day one.
Yeah, it's a giant Talon. So it's like an entry level. I wouldn't even call it a trail bike. It's not really meant for trails.
Yeah, it
However,
is. I mean, it's a hardtail. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, I guess. However, I mean, I took it to New Mexico and I took it all over and stuff. But Joseph and my other roommate Tim, that you hear about all the time, have significantly better bikes than me. And Tim was saying how this year, like for his like goals or whatever, he wants to go mountain biking multiple times, like a week. I'm like doing the quick math. I'm like, hey, we drive to work every day together. we could just leave from work and go mountain biking. But I was like, I want a new bike. So I don't know if you guys know, but there's a huge bike shortage right now. And it's supposed to
Really?
last up until like next year because, I mean, part of it's like, I think a manufacturing issue, but also the demand is super high because people don't understandably don't want to go into gyms. So they are all buying bikes. So I'm like, I got to start looking like now, right?
In the off season.
Yeah, I have to look in the off season. So luckily, like the one bike that I ended up deciding on, I stayed with the hardtail. Usually your two choices are hardtail and full suspension, where you have a shock or a suspension in the back wheel. But I like the hardtail look and the feel, so I got that. Just with significantly better components, and just from like the little bit I drove around the parking lot with it, it just feels so much fucking better. It feels like I'm floating.
I have to ask you.
Yeah,
I have to ask. So your old bike, the Talon, and it was like a year older than mine, so it's slightly different. But I gotta ask, did you end up filling the tires? Because Joseph, you remember when we had to move Gabe out of his up-down apartment and move into your current house? Your bike was flat as fuck, and I'm like, how are you riding this? Like, it was so bad.
No, I bought a pump like that next week after you left, I think. Which, I mean, everyone uses that pump now. But
I didn't want you to shit on the bike due to negligence. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad bike. I think it was a perfect beginner bike. So that bike was, what, $500? I got it for like $450 or something because it was like the year. I bought it the year older model when I bought mine. I think it was great to like get into it, but if I want to keep up, if I want to get faster and not like I constantly felt like I was just shaking all the time, I wanted something a little bit different. So not that it's going to be too much better, but still with the hardtail.
Now I got to get a better bike.
You don't. Your bike
so
is
Joseph just got
one.
You just got a bike last summer.
I know, but now Gabe's is better than mine.
Yeah, his was like what, $1,300, and I spent $1,400. Like
just man,
slightly better.
Okay, when you say better, what are you referring to exactly?
Like I have a better fork, I'm pretty sure.
Probably the drivetrain.
You got which one did you have? Is
Rock Shock. It's a Judy.
Oh, I don't know. I know mine's a Rock Shocks too. I don't know which
maybe
one
it's the same one.
It's not a Judy though.
And then I got like they're called wide tires or whatever, so they're like extra
plus size.
Plus size, yeah. So they're not like the standard size; they're a little bit wider. So I think that'll be pretty cool, especially on like the downhill sections.
Right.
Because I've been on some pretty sketchy downhill descents. My older bike. So having that extra grip is gonna be super fucking nice, and
it should give you more like torque on the uphills too, right? So more surface area.
Yeah, I mean the only like big downside is it's heavier, and you're also like you can't exactly weave over stuff. Sometimes with the wider tire,
just tank it.
Over it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited though. I want to do some more trips and shit. Fucking stoked.
Hey Dayton, how UL are plus size tires?
I think they provide different functionality, so I mean it's hard to compare them just on a weight basis.
Okay.
What fat tires?
Fat tires serve a purpose, if you're in sand or snow, definitely serves a purpose. And actually, I rode a fat tire bike, a fully rigid one on some trails with a friend of mine who was riding a full suspension, and dude, that bike hauls ass. Like
I'm sure going downhill, you're just cruising.
Yeah, you cruise, and like these trails are like super well maintained, so like it didn't matter that I didn't have suspension. And and it was a carbon frame too. So like it was really nice. I don't think I'd want it though.
Yeah. Well, I texted Dayton before I got the bike. I was like, "Hey, what should I get?" And he's like, "Whatever feels good." I'm like, "Whatever." So like I went did a bunch of research, and I texted him and I was like, "What do you feel about plus size tires?" And he's like, "They're kick ass." And then I wrote it, and it honestly felt good. Felt super good. Like, I don't know.
And honestly, the bike that Gabe got was one of the 4 bikes on my list that I was considering. So, I mean, mine, I think I was considering the 29er version, so a little bit bigger, like diameter tires than Gabe's. But I mean, same components, really.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised to see the Snapchat because I'm like, it's winter. Like, are you fucking biking right now?
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't ride it for like months.
Dude, I could ride right now. It was like 45 degrees out here.
It is not that warm here. It feels like -25 right now.
Yeah, it is not warm. I've got a blanket on in the basement here.
Old
It is
man
cold.
Joseph.
It
Yeah.
is
I should
cold
change your
fuck.
name on the stream overlay to Old Man Joseph right now.
Hopefully, it won't torture you too much to see it every day. I mean, if it's in the garage, it probably won't. But
It's
just
not
walking
too
past
bad.
it, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely like. I mean,
Dude,
I'm
Gabe,
still
you
in
could-
snowboard mode and ice skating mode, but
You could do
Right.
skills practice. Find like a dry stretch of road or something. Get some 2x4s and like practice your bunny hops and just technical skills and stuff like that.
maybe I will do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm super fucking so pumped.
Oh, it's awesome. I miss mountain biking so much, but it's just like I mean, obviously it's winter right now, but it's Indiana's not the best place for for mountain biking, and even
Yeah.
if it was, like, I don't know if I'd want to buy a mountain bike because my one got fucking stolen. But anyway. I've been
R.I.P.
I've actually been getting kind of tortured a little bit recently with a similar king of you see it but you can't use it yet. I think I mentioned on the podcast, but they're putting in a Cane's in West Lafayette here, which is my favorite fast food place, as I've mentioned many times. And I drive past it every goddamn day coming home from class, and it's not open yet. And it's just like, fuck, like, why did I notice this building? Like, I wish I would just, like, could have seen it and it was open, but now I gotta drive past it. It's gonna be, I think, a few more months till it's fully operational, and it's just makes me sad, Joseph.
Sometimes
I
you just gotta
believe
wait, you know.
Yeah. I mean, at least I'll have it for most of my time here, but
Yeah.
this week I wanted some fucking Canes, man.
Sometimes you just need some chicken fingers.
Oh yeah, baby, some Texas toast. Come
Oof.
on. So last week we talked a lot about GameStop, and that was so we're recording on Saturday, so that was like 2 weeks ago of when everything was kind of popping off a week and a half ago, and I was on fire. Like I was like I want to know everything about the story. I was super invested. I'm like, this is so interesting. The weekend hit and I just fell off a cliff. Like I just could not care less. I like was checking the stock price during the week this last week a little bit. But Dayton, I got no idea what's going on. Can we get a quick update on the situation?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't been following it like super closely. But from what I understand is that the short positions from like all like these hedge funds and stuff like that were supposed to close on Friday, and then they were supposed to start covering sometime early last week. And basically a whole bunch, like, I guess they can figure out like short, like how, like your percentage of shorts that you've closed through like some math that's like way over my head, and I don't really give a fuck about it, to be honest, and I can't be fucked to do it myself. So I just trust these random people on the internet that their math is correct.
Right.
But basically what that data is showing is that they still have not covered it, and it's past the expiration date of like the short, so they're basically paying interest on all of these positions, so they're just bleeding money. Like the hedge funds are bleeding money, except all like the mainstream media is like saying that they've closed their positions, which is like a lie. Except what's like the thought right now is that they're basically saying that and lying that they've closed their shorts to get people to dump their stocks. Which, I mean, the price is driving down right now, and it's significantly down right now. I think like right now it's at like, I mean, it's after hours. I think it's at 60.
$65.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for comparison, it was like at its peak, I think it hit like 390 or something like that.
I thought it broke
It's close.
400.
It was very
Yeah,
close.
it was like
Oh, did it?
495.
Oh, did
at
it?
one
Okay,
point,
so
yeah.
I'm way underestimating it.
So Dayton, are you telling us to buy?
No,
Financial
I'm
advisor.
I'm not a financial advisor by any means.
What are your hands looking like right
Yeah.
now, though?
Have you sold?
Dude, I've got diamond hands still. I'm fucking holding this shit. I only
I
put
mean,
in
are we,
I only
are they
put in
still
money
waiting
that
for
I
the
could
squeeze?
afford. Yeah, we're still waiting for the squeeze to happen. So we don't really know when it's gonna happen. But I mean, a lot like trading volume is super low right now. So like when it was like rising like a lot on like Thursday and Friday of that would have
2
been
weeks ago.
2 weeks ago at the time of recording right now. Trading volume was like I think like $3 to $4 million or 3 to 4 million shares being traded like every 10 minutes, I think, or something. I don't know. It's a significant amount, and now it's down to like 400 or 500,000. So that's evidence that people are holding onto the stock more often than they're selling it right now. So, and a lot of the price like changes are people are chalking it up to price manipulation on the hedge funds. So they think that they're doing what are called short ladders. So they're basically trading stocks back and forth to each other for low prices to drive the price down. And that's kind of compounded by the fact that Robinhood, which is a large platform for trading stocks, which a lot of retail investors like Joe Schmoes and stuff like that trade on, they initially closed trading for GameStop. Then they made it to 5, and then 5 shares, and then they lowered it down to 2, and then to 1, and then obviously there's been a whole bunch of like backlash because they've been giving the hedge funds an unfair advantage in the market compared to retail investors. And then they increased it to 100, and now they've completely uncapped it.
And you, for a time, I don't know if it's still true, you could only buy whole shares. You couldn't buy partial shares.
Fractional shares, yeah. I don't know what the case is on that anymore. I don't know. I haven't bought it anymore.
Still holding the line. They're still expecting the squeeze.
Yeah. I mean, I only put in money that I could afford to lose. Like if I lost everything that I had, in GameStop, I would just be like, man, that fucking sucks, but I can still afford to live. Like it's not like I used my mortgage to
You gotta move out
to buy fucking GameStop stock. GameStop. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that that things will, look upwards. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we've already, bled these hedge funds out of a shit ton of money, which is a win in and of itself.
Yeah. And also in the day, like on paper, looking at who would win this fight, it'd be the hedge funds because of sheer resources. So, we'll see what happens. I was just curious because the stock price was way down this weekend. I'm like, is it over? Like, if the hedge funds won?
No.
According to www.isthesqueeze.com, the squeeze has not been squoze.
Yeah.
So we still supposedly got time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. And I saw like Mark Cuban was getting super involved as well. He had like an AMA on Wall Street Bets and was trying to give advice to people and stuff.
That was a really interesting AMA. I read through it.
He went on an interview too on like CNBC or something. Like
he literally did the AMA and then immediately called into the CNBC meeting, and then I think he just like completely dicked this guy down who was like asking him questions.
He just ripped
like,
into CNBC like you guys are spreading these lies basically about what's going on in this subreddit.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see not only what ends up happening, but also the regulation that comes out of it, because shit will definitely change after this whole ordeal is over. And I also saw already 3 movies are in the works about this to be made.
Yeah, didn't Netflix pick up something?
I think they picked up one of
the rights for a movie and a TV show I saw.
Yeah.
Which I hope for their sake that this does like come to a point and like it ends up being like a good movie, because like as it stands right now,
not a good
movie. If it just kind of if like the price if the shorts ended up like we don't see the squeeze, I should say.
Yeah,
we don't see the squeeze, and it's like, okay, we had all this hype and then a lot of people bought shares at $300+ and now it's worth $6 again.
Yeah.
All I want is Adam McKay to make a sequel to The Big Short called The Big Squeeze. That's all I want, because that movie's fucking amazing, and if he did it again, I think it'd be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I've got two other notes on this before we go on. So the other thing that points towards market manipulation on the hedge funds is that AMC, right? AMC is another one of these stocks that was heavily shorted, and that people have been trying to squeeze. Basically the price changes basically mirror each other between GameStop and AMC, pretty much identically. Like obviously the prices are different, but like the fluctuations, the
graphs look the same.
Yeah. So that points to market manipulation. And then what else was I gonna say? Oh, and then the Volvo got squozen in 2008.
No, it was.
That was Volkswagen.
It was Volkswagen.
Okay, sorry, I knew it was a V1.
That was in 2008 too.
Yeah, in 2008.
It was like during their whole debacle with the emissions, I thought.
Was that then? I don't know.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, so there, like the graph there, it basically shows a sharp uptick in price, and then it basically goes down for like a week or two, and then it just skyrockets, which I mean is kind of what we've been seeing so far, which is just kind of further evidence that the squeeze has not been squozen yet.
So yeah,
So, as non-financial advice, maybe it might be a good time to get in. Who knows?
just
don't know.
if you are thinking about getting in, do not spend more money than you can afford to lose.
Yeah, assume
This is not
that you
investing.
lose.
This is not
Everything.
investing. This is gambling. You, like you can invest in the stock market, but that is not what this is. This is straight up gambling. So if you choose to do it, be very careful about it.
I'm in a liquor store, and when I come back, I'm gonna buy a bunch of shares because Dayton said it was a good thing to do. If I lose any money, I'm blaming Dayton.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna send an angry letter to at ewfpodcast. Is that our new email?
ewfpodcast@gmail.com. Send
Yeah,
me questions.
I'm gonna send it in at you like that? I'm gonna send it in there. Tell Dayton he needs to get kicked off the show.
Yep. Unfortunately,
right.
I'm the only person who monitors that email, so I'll just get my feelings hurt. All right. So we do have a big topic. Before that, I got to tell one more little funny story that happened this week. So I'm in this presentation skills class. It's like 1 credit, meets once a week. It's just like how to make a good presentation, and I'm like, easy money, right? And this Wednesday, the instructor or professor, like went through like a presentation of like best practices for presentation stuff, yada yada. Yada. And I just got a good chuckle because at the end, she's talking about like, should you try to incorporate humor in your presentation? Because like humor is a good way to like get people engaged, and like you can definitely do too much of it and become cringy if you like throw in a bunch of like memes in your presentation or just make way too many jokes. But the line that killed me is like on her slide, it says, "Should you incorporate humor?" In the first bullet, "Do your friends think you're funny?" It's like, you might think you're funny, but like, do other people think you're funny? Because if not, maybe not do this. But I just think it's just such a fucking like wake up call to some people. It was like, oh yeah, I'm hilarious. I can put a lot of like funny shit in my presentation. It's like no one else thinks
it's
that.
just
Like
when it
people who
falls
think they can
flat.
sing, and then
Yeah,
they, like
exactly.
go on American Idol.
But my parents said I'm great, or my family said I'm great.
My mom says I'm a handsome boy.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
it's
so
it's
talented.
so unbearable. I get secondhand cringe whenever I see people like do that and it just falls flat. I'm just like, oh fuck.
Well, because like I've seen a lot of presentations like recently, like where they'll throw in like one slide that has like some like comic strips that are like relevant to the talk that are like kind of funny. But I just find it's awkward when they do that because like they wait for you to read the joke and then you like kind of chuckle and then they move on. It's like I feel like if you're gonna put in humor, it should be you talking and like maybe saying a joke, just a funny line, not even necessarily like set up punchline, but just having an offhand comment that might be kind of funny,
Yeah. I mean, I think of Jeb. What is it? Jeb Bush? Is that?
Please
who it was?
clap.
Yeah, please clap.
clap.
Like I can imagine like someone just standing up there, doing a presentation and just be like, all right, now look at the slide for the comic, and then 30-second pause. Please clap.
I have a very small anecdote on that. Like the person who is in charge of like the 401k account, I think it's 401k at our work, is like it's a third party or whatever. So he'll do a presentation, and I was warned that his humor was bad. So like context, this company is all young 20s, mostly men. Like it's men in their young 20s, and this guy has boomer humor. And he's just giving this presentation and nobody's laughing, and he's like treating us like we're 12 with like the humor, and it's like also it's a 401k, which is like I don't know, you can't make it fun, you just can't.
Right,
okay
right.
It's a fucking boring topic most of the time, especially like from this company who's like trying to get you to invest your money in them, and it was just the worst hour of my life. Like it just fucking sucked. And then he did a part 2 over Microsoft Teams, like after the pandemic, and that one was worse because like nobody has their mics on, obviously. So he'll like just say a joke, and then wait, and then keep talking, and it's like no one laughed. You don't need a pause. No one
You don't
laughed.
even get the. You know, the like
Yeah.
Yeah.
forceful,
The pity laughs.
yeah, the forceful exhale.
It's so
Yes.
bad. I just hate secondhand embarrassment, like you said.
I
That's all
I
it is.
wonder if for him, like, he's been doing this shit for so long, like he's just completely numb to this like
Dude,
embarrassment,
he's dead
cringe.
inside.
Like,
Like,
so
these
dead.
are like the people that like wanted to stand up comedy, but they never had the balls to like, oh, this will be my time to shine in this fucking presentation.
And you know it's the same script he's been using for the last 15
Oh, yeah.
years.
Oh yeah, he just
And he-
changes the numbers in it.
He changes a few things. He maybe will try and add like a pop culture reference. And it's like you didn't even use it right, guy. Like, come on.
Yep.
oh, that's
Oh man,
cringy.
presentations are just the range of quality within a even like a professional setting. It just blows my mind sometimes. But
Mm.
I will
that's what people
say,
are.
for a fun presentation, we did this
Oh,
actually
God.
last
It was
night.
last night. Yeah.
Our friend group's been doing presentation parties recently, where we'll like make a presentation,
Step one is get trashed.
Right.
get trash, make a presentation, and then present it to your drunk friends. But last night, because we didn't have time to prepare, but we wanted to do it still, we all dug through our Google Drives for an old school
Oh.
presentation, and then we sent it to Gabe because his laptop was ready, and then we had a Secret Santa name generator thing, so that then you had to present someone else's school presentation,
It's like a popcorn presentation.
and it
That's
was
really fun.
fucking hysterical because like Gabe was a complete asshole and did like a study guide for like some one of his
It's a network certification I have.
yes, like some senior level class that he took, and it's like chapter 5, so it's like you're in the thick of it, and like fucking one of our friends had to present it, and they're like, I have no fucking clue what's going on.
It was so fucking good.
And then
okay,
another friend,
She
I
had one in
think-
entirely French.
yeah, our other friend had a French class and had to make a presentation completely in French and did that, and the person that presented it was like, that
It's
kind of looks like an English word. It looks like this. They're probably talking about this. Here's a picture of this thing. This is probably what it's about. It was so fucking funny.
It was a good time.
That sounds fucking fantastic. I'd love to do that
And-
sometime.
and
Because you
Tim, oh, go ahead.
could even do that over like Zoom or Discord or something.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
You could simply share
Well,
the screens and stuff.
Yeah, you
Jackbox
could
has
just share your
a
screen.
game that's very similar. to-
Yeah,
to
I was gonna say I've played the
presentations.
Jackbox one before.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's talking points, or I forget the name of the game.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
that's
remember.
fun too.
That one's fun, but it was
It's a
just
little
cool because
shorter,
it
yeah.
was definitely like you could tell whose was whose, obviously. You know.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Um,
Well, also because half the time it said the name on the title slide, so it's like,
yeah, but I'm just
thanks,
saying, like,
Gabe, for giving me this shit.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, good times.
Mhm.
Highly
All right.
recommend.
Well, let's get into our main topic, and you know what? We're going to talk about humans, all right, and how humans act in groups. Okay, and here's the context for this topic. So, in the lab I work in, including undergrads, grad students, staff, everyone involved, there is 22 people. Which, if you're not familiar with like research labs, that's a shit ton. Like most research labs have like 3, 4, 5 people, including the PI and like the grad students. We have 22. Okay. And you know, which is fine. That means like we have a lot of projects, we have a lot of manpower to do things, so it's all good. But there are some downsides. So we have like our lab meeting every week, and a lot of people who are in our lab are very new, like less than a year they've been here for, so they don't necessarily have any opinions on how things like should be run. Or also, it's like I'm new, I don't like want to like mess with what the older students have like done like organizationally, right? Like I don't feel like my opinion really matters, you know. But our PI, who's I'm not trying to talk to you, like he's a great guy. One of his like philosophies is he really likes having like a family atmosphere, so like everyone feels included, and he's like no hierarchy, like everyone's like on an equal level, like undergrads and grad students can all like their all of our ideas are like worth talking about and you know respected. Totally fine. I totally get that. I like when people feel included and respected and stuff. However, the problem is when everyone is like equal and new and you have that many people, it's really hard to get anything done because, you know, like someone will propose an idea and then our boss will be like, all right, what does everyone think about that? And like he has to get like approval from everyone to make sure everyone's okay with it before we can move forward. And like that's not like a quick process, right? And then also on the flip side, like if you have like a project for like uh for example, we need to like clean out one of our giant freezers, right? There's a lot of shit in there from like years and years ago. So like all the new people have no idea what this stuff is, who the people were, who put stuff in there. But he'll be like, all right, let's all as a lab like clean out the freezer. And it's like, okay, so everyone's gonna think someone else is gonna do it. And
Mm-hmm.
also all the new people are be like, I don't feel like I have the authority to make any decisions, so I'm not gonna do anything. And then the people who actually do have authority are too busy, so they don't do it, and then it just never gets done. you know? And it's very frustrating because like then the lab just gets, dirtier and less organized and just nothing ever moves forward. And we keep adding people and these people have no idea what's going on. So just like onboarding becomes an issue. It's just like not an ideal situation. Recently though, I proposed, and a few people proposed like having more like smaller like action groups. Like, okay, let's have a group of like 3 4 people on this one specific task, and it's their job to get it done, and that way they can feel responsible for it, and they'll actually know like, okay, I'm allowed to do this, right? So it's like let's have a project or an objective, assign a few people to it, and they can get it done. And I feel like it's going to work a lot better. We haven't really fully implemented it yet, but I think it's going to work a lot better. And I was talking to my brother about this last night. We had a phone call, and he was bringing up a similar allegory to like churches sometimes. Like when you have, because he's a very strong Christian, and when you have like a large church, it can be good because you have a lot of people with like similar mindsets, and theoretically they could get a lot done.
Mm-hmm.
But the pastor could be like, "All right, everyone, go like do a good deed this week," and everyone's like, "Oh yeah," and then they walk out the door and nothing ever happens because like there's no accountability, there's no responsibility. Everyone thinks someone else is going to do a good thing, and it's just nothing ever happens. And I just think it's a fascinating, like human condition dynamic where everyone wants to be respected and their opinion to matter, but also everyone just kind of wants to be told what to do, and that's the only way things ever get done. And also, the larger group you have, the harder it is to actually move forward. Um, there is a line in Captain America: Civil War, a great fucking movie, when they're at the UN. Um, the King of Wakanda is talking about, 2 people can get more done than 100, because that way you can just, all right, me and you, let's figure this shit out, and then we can just like tell everyone else what to do, as opposed to 100 people having to have their opinions heard. And I'm not saying that that's inherently bad. It just takes a lot longer. Um, and I just think it's a fascinating thing because, like I mentioned, people would like believe that like, yeah, I want my opinion to be heard. I want to be able to make a decision, but I think people truly just want to be told what to do. And Gabe, you were mentioning before the podcast, you were reading a book kind of with a similar viewpoint on this.
Yeah, so I'll just get like the synopsis. I read books, first off.
Oh my gosh, he reads books.
Smart.
Man, you must be so smart.
Pretty fucking smart. This book is called Sapiens. It's just I couldn't tell you the author's name off the top of my head, but the concept of it is just like the history of humans and how they got to like where we are at this point.
Mhm.
And the main argument he draws for like how we got to like in a civilization, I guess, is that like you see in nature nothing, there isn't like cities, right, or governments of like other animals. What makes humans different is that we have this ability to like imagine things. So he makes the argument that you can imagine things such as companies or like governments. He is basically saying that stuff's imaginary and that everyone can like perceive that it exists in quotes, but you can't really like point to a specific thing that like makes the company. Like you can point at the building, but
Mhm.
you're not pointing at the employees, or you're not pointing at the product. Like it's not real. Like people aren't really meant to be in over groups of like 100. That he claims like humans weren't really meant to be in that big of a group, because the bigger it gets, it just kind of falls apart, whether that be like infighting or power struggles. It'll just like split off, and you see that in nature all the time too, with like packs of like lions and wolves and stuff, where they'll like break off. So he says that you make this imaginary thing happen, and that you have this group for like a common cause, and that's what causes people to like, they have like a common ground. They're not like, oh, we work for the same company, or we're both Americans, or whatever it may be. Like have some common ground, so there's like less conflict, but also so that you can kind of like band together to get a project done. But
Mhm.
I mean, that being said, I mean, you almost always have hierarchies. Like that's just something you always see throughout all of nature and all of, I mean, human existence. That, you know, there's always some level of ladder, you know, or a pyramid. So,
Right. And yeah, I think a large part of it is when you get groups to be too big, everyone feels like they have a specific role, right? Like when you used to say like humans should only be groups of less than 100. That makes me think of like back in the olden days, you know? It's like, okay, let's say you have like a small village and like, okay, this person's a blacksmith, this person runs a general store, this person's a doctor. And it's like this, it seems very romantic and like, yeah, that's like a nice little society. But as soon as you start scaling that up, it just kind of falls apart, like you said.
yeah. And you have to have some common goal too, right? Like, I don't know,
Right.
keep the city together. Like, we're running out of blacksmiths. Like, we need a treat. Like, train someone to do that. Like, someone has to be
Mhm.
mitigating that, or, you know, working towards that common goal, whatever it may be.
Right.
You know?
I think maybe like a example where it does work, and going back to the role things like a football team, like everyone on the football team has like a position they play, and they like know this is my position. So like that, I feel like it's a pretty well-oiled, machine. But if you again, if you're in like a company like Gabe said, if you don't, if you're like a large group of people kind of all have the same role, and it's not really clear, like it's just hard to have anyone have accountability, responsibility, or feel like passionate necessarily to get things done.
Yeah. But you see that too, and like, I mean, this is my experience. I'm sure it's your guys' as well. Is like if you work for a small company, like when I worked when I did computer repair in college, there was like 6 of us. So I did a lot. Like I did a lot of different
Mhm.
stuff. And now I work in a lot bigger company where there's a lot more lines drawn, where like it gets a lot more specialized, and you
Mhm.
kind of have to when it scales that much. It's like, okay, you deal with this part, like you will, like, you know, for me, I do IT, so it's like your whole job is just to like put the servers in the rack, and my job is to configure them. And like you have that separation, so that, like you said, people can be responsible for something and still, you know, get your work done, because it can get messy real quick if you're doing like every step of the way, right? It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. You have to
And
split it up at some point.
and people don't like it when you have like those hard boundaries. So like let's say like with Gabe, like your example, like you have some guy who puts in the servers into the racks, and your job is to configure them. I would bet that that guy would probably get irritated if you were to do his job for him and like to
Oh
put like the
yeah,
server in the rack, and
dude.
not
Sometimes they'll do
even
part of my stuff. I'm like, don't do that.
yeah, it's like
My
I
thing.
mean I'm sure a lot of it is like you're gonna fuck it up, like just don't even bother with it.
Yeah, it totally
It's like
is.
I do not trust you.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, so I kind of struggled with that when I first started working because I was like, I was used to doing literally everything in regards to like materials stuff in like my enterprise in college, and then I got here and it was just like, oh yeah, we don't handle like mechanical properties and stuff like that. That's all on engineering, like the component engineering, and I'm just like, what? Like, all right, like I mean, I'll give that to them. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's less work for me to do, but it's just kind of weird. But it makes sense now after I've been
Yeah.
working for a while. But
I mean, on paper, I think it makes sense, but it can also get messy where you divide it too much,
mm-hmm.
where
Right.
it's like it adds. I mean, each time you're adding time, like I told Joseph the other day, sometimes I love just being like, this is XYZ department. Here you go. Not my problem. But there's definitely times where it's like, I'm waiting on these 2 groups or parties or whatever, just so I can do my thing. My thing will take half an hour, but I have to wait because like it's not my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think overall it's better, you know, like than if I were to do everything or whatever. But
See,
it does have downsides.
that's really interesting because like where I work, the people I work with pride the fact that we do like a machine start to finish. Like the systems
Mhm.
engineer starts at the kickoff meeting. They do, you know, electrical design. They order the parts. They write the software. Then they test it out, and they go up until the customer checks it out, and you ship the machine. And like even sometimes after it ships, there might be called on like service calls where it's
Right.
like full length of the project, you know, is one guy usually.
Mhm.
Um, and we've been like growing because we're doing well and expanding, and we're looking at splitting it off into like design and execution kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that are upset about that, but it's like you have to,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes complete sense. But it's one of those things that like I remember when I was hired in, that was like a point of pride. Was like we do everything, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's cool. Like it's nice to have that variety, but at the same time, it can add to things in a larger company where, hey, this guy is really good at XYZ thing, but we can't have him work on it because he's tied up with this other thing. So
Mm-hmm.
until he's done with that section of the project or whatever,
You're waiting.
we can't, like, he's gonna be the best to do this part, but
Yeah.
he's busy doing something
Mhm.
else.
Yeah, I mean it's the natural. It's like specialization is like a natural byproduct of like growing.
Mhm.
Kind of like what Jacob was saying with like the whole like blacksmith and general store and like the town. Like you have to do everything when you're a smaller company just because you don't have the resources to say, okay,
Yeah.
I want this person to only be doing the programming, this person to only be doing the designing. And there's a lot of like good stuff that comes out of specialization too, because then instead of taking away resources to say like, hey, I need to learn how to design, I need to learn how to program, I need to learn how to blah blah blah. It's like I can focus all of my time in on this one thing, and
And
then
then you
get a.
get really good at design, and then
Mhm.
okay, like, and I know there's been talks like where I work with, like, yeah, you there might be someone who does mostly the design, but they're going to be at least somewhat involved later on, so that, hey, this design didn't work, so then they know how to improve it later, rather than sending shitty designs down the line saying, oh, it's not my job if it doesn't work, I did my part.
Mhm.
Because I think there's definitely an accountability thing,
Right.
especially with like as like as processed as that is, right?
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're spending all your time, like it's like if you're trying to pick up, I don't know, like 3 different skills at once. Like if you're trying to, like, I don't know, learn how to skate, snowboard, and I don't know, ski at the same time, like you could do it eventually if you spread out your time. But if you spend all your time just doing one of those things, you're gonna be fucking way better at it than if you were splitting your time like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Joseph, I'm really fascinated by your company's transition there because like there are obviously pros and cons to each method of having the single person do the entire process or have specialized people do each part
Well, because
because
by
like the
the end,
handoff.
yeah, there's information lost at a handoff,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's just how a handoff works. There's going to
Yep.
be some sort of communication loss. You can mitigate that, but like what's going on in my head is going to be very difficult to translate into the other person's head.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you work through it to the end, you're going to know it through and through
Yep.
so well. Like you're just
Yep.
like, oh, something's wrong. I know exactly how to do this.
Yep.
Rather than like, okay, here's a machine. I need to figure out how it works so that I can troubleshoot it.
Yep.
Like you just when you've programmed it, you know exactly how it works. When you design the electronics, okay, this is designed this way so that the software can work with it in this way.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
because like it's probably a little bit less efficient. It'd probably take longer for one person to do the whole thing, but you probably have a little bit higher quality product, or at least you could troubleshoot it faster. Or like if the customer has a question, you can answer. It's only one person you have to go to get the question answered.
Well,
yeah,
Whereas if it's 5 people by the end of the day, it's like, okay, whose job is this? Okay, well, I found this one issue, but I forgot to tell you about it, and that cascades.
yeah,
Yeah.
festers and yeah,
the customer support is probably way better. I mean, if they stay there, you also have a single point of failure. Like if
yeah.
Joseph
Tribal
got
knowledge,
hit by
man.
a
Yep.
bus like today, like, and they're like
And
on
my
Monday, someone's like,
machines out in the field,
they're
like
like,
yeah, we train a service guy, but still, that's one service guy that you train.
yeah,
So it's
Yep.
like some of the
Joseph's
older
in the
service
dirt right
guys.
now. He can't
Yeah,
help. He can't come
yeah,
to the phone.
yeah.
Right, and that's why
So
like when you scale up, you have to scale very smart, and it's if you scale too fast, you can run issues. 'Cause, yeah, you have a lot of tribal knowledge, from these older employees, and if they don't write it down or they don't document it, well, people coming in have no idea what's going on, right? And they might be sitting around doing nothing because they're just like, I don't know where to enter here. Like a good example, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I know that CD Projekt Red, the guys who made Cyberpunk, when they made their previous game Witcher 3, I think they had 150 people. And then after that game was successful and they started ramping it for Cyberpunk, they like doubled their employees up to like 300 because they need more manpower. But like if you scale too fast, like I'm sure there are people sitting in their cubicles on Reddit because they weren't told what to do because just things weren't fully, put together. Um, and yeah, I think it can be very dangerous to scale up too fast. But no, I think it's just people sometimes don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and they might be annoyed if like somebody comes and yells at them like, hey, do this, this, and this, but it's gonna get more things done.
Well, I
Well, an
also
interesting point to that is in I've heard in like first aid training, if you're like giving someone CPR or like treating first aid and you want, someone to call 911, if like someone hasn't called it already, you're not supposed to say, "Hey, somebody call 911." You're supposed to point at someone, say, "You call
Right. Yep.
911 right now."
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise if you say, "Hey, somebody call 911," everyone's going to look at their neighbor and say, "Oh, well someone else is going to do it. I'm not going to
Yep.
do it." Because
Yep.
you don't want three people calling 911 because then they're all calling for the same person and then stuff gets confusing. So yeah, you want to delegate. You
Yes.
specifically, you are calling
Mhm.
911.
Mm-hmm. I had an
I was just
experience
gonna.
with that actually. Like when I was driving back in stop and go traffic down from Boston, and
Mm-hmm.
the guy in front of me, his car literally just burst into flames, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh fuck!" And then like I was like, at first I was like, "Oh, like I'm sure that somebody else is gonna like call 911 around me," but I was like,
Yep.
"Wait, like no, that's the bystander effect. Like I need to call him." So then
Hmm.
I called him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like we've already had somebody call about it. You know, the fire department's on their way." But I was just like, initially my thought was like, oh, like whatever, someone else is called. Which I
Well,
mean,
I
it
Bystander
heard
did,
effect is
but
so powerful.
I
mm-hmm,
heard a story of this guy. Well, I say I heard the story. I heard firsthand because I was talking to the guy it happened to, but he got into an accident on the interstate, and like his car rolled over or something, and like it blocked traffic, like it caused a traffic jam. People called the Department of Transportation to let them know. This was before like Google Maps and stuff. Hey, there's a slowdown here. So, the Department of Transportation's aware and authorities are aware. Because I guess that was something people used to do. I don't really know.
hmm,
Hmm.
That's just part of the story, he said. So eventually he was hurt. So it like took him a while. And eventually he was able to call 911. And like, oh, are you calling about the traffic jam? He's like, yeah. And he's like, do you know why there's a traffic jam? He's like, no, we just heard about it. He's like, oh, well, there was an accident and I am hurt in this accident and I need an ambulance. And like,
Mhm.
oh no, people were just reporting the traffic jam, not that there was an actual accident. He's like, well, I'm fucking hurt. Can you please send an ambulance?
Yeah.
Please.
God, it's insane.
And so
Gabe, you
yeah,
want to say something?
I was just gonna say the bystander effect thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there's like, I mean, you hear stories of people who are severely hurt or like bleed out and die because like no one says anything.
mm-hmm,
It's tragic, but
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
watched a YouTube. Was it a YouTube video? Yeah, I think it was a YouTube video. I think it was Vsauce, his Minefield, YouTube program. I think they did an episode on the bystander effect, and it was pretty interesting. Or maybe it was Veritasium. I don't know. It was one of like those like sciency like
Yep.
YouTubers, and they did a video on the bystander effect, and they found that it was like a lot of times like it is true, and they covered like this class like this. I guess there was like a high school teacher that wanted to like basically run like a program where like everyone's a hero sort of deal, or everyone can be a hero,
mm-hmm.
and part of that training was like breaking through the bystander effect. Um, and I think like it showed that like people who were like in that class ended up like standing up, and like breaking the bystander effect a lot more often than people who were not in that class.
Interesting. Because
Yeah.
like it happens with even something like bullying, right? If
Yeah.
somebody sees somebody getting bullied, it's like, oh, somebody else say something,
Mm-hmm.
or on much larger scales as well. But yeah, it's a scary thing about humans, that they would just assume there's a better person around.
there's definitely like there's definitely a lot of things where like or humans are just sheeps. Like
Oh yeah.
like I think about a lot of the times for like specifically, this is a very specific example. It's like lines, like people who form lines. Sometimes
Mhm.
they'll make no fucking sense, like career fair at tech. Sometimes they'll make no fucking sense, and it's like, why do you do it? You just get behind the person. You don't think of it, or like what?
There's been
Even if
those.
it's snowboarding lines, like we went snowboarding 2 weekends ago, and there was one line and there was like four like I don't know gates to like corral in, and usually you take turns and then you go through, but everyone was at one gate, And
Yeah,
I
so you
was
just
like,
ski around them.
I just like naturally started going. I was like, wait, there's 4 other ones. Like my first interaction was just like, get behind people.
It's like, oh,
then-
they're waiting in line.
But then I was like, wait,
They know
what the
what's up.
fuck am I doing? Like, Joseph, let's go around the side. Like,
Yeah, it's like-
what are we doing?
There's an open gate here. Why don't you just go right in? All these people are
Yeah.
idiots.
It's just,
I mean, we've seen those videos of it's like experiment. People go to a mall and they just put like some tape on the floor and they just have 2 people like stand in a line, and over time people just get in line, and it just starts like people, and they have no idea what they're standing in line for, but they
Yeah.
do it, and it's just insane.
And then the worst is like you're like a couple people back, and then someone asks, "Oh, are you in line to like do this thing?" And they're like, "Oh no, I'm just standing here." And then you're like, "Fuck, I look like an idiot." And there's people behind me, and we're all like,
Let me ask you guys this, and this answer is dependent, I guess, on the amount of work that needs to be done. But say if like a general school project, what is the ideal amount of people in the group?
3 to 4.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess it really is dependent on how much work you're doing.
I would say 4. It depends on it
I'd say
definitely
3 to
depends
4
Yeah.
for sure.
on, like,
I mean,
load.
PUBG and Apex is 3 to 4, so I'm gonna go with
Well, 'cause
the most work gets done.
there's enough, like that's enough where it's like, okay, we can designate someone as like the designator, right? Where
Yep,
like,
The
okay,
leader.
not necessarily the leader, but like here are the tasks. You just delegate the tasks. Like
Yeah.
if it's 2 people, it's really weird to be like, okay, you do this and I'll do this. Like, here's a shit job, you get to do that one, and I'll
Yeah.
do the easy job, right? But like with 4, it's a lot easier to spread things out, like 3 to 4, and then it's not like, oh, this person's bossing over me. It's like this person's bossing over us, you know?
Mhm.
Right. So my brother was telling me last night he's in a school project right now, and there's 6 people in the group. He's like, it's a little too much. And
It's too easy to slack off with 6 people.
it's exactly. And he was saying, so they were trying to pick between like 2 options on like which topic to do or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, let's do a vote. And 5 said one and 1 said the other. And so like, oh, like, are you okay doing this topic? You know, the one who was dissenting. And she's like, well, I guess, but like, I think we should do this other topic for like this. Like, she had a very well thought out argument for her
Yeah.
side. So then there's like, okay, back to square one. And it's just like, God damn
You
it.
just
know?
need someone to
It's
put
like-
their foot down. Like
Exactly.
people are a lot of times like afraid to just be like no. They're afraid to say no, or they're afraid to just make a decision because they want to like appease everybody. And I mean, nothing gets done if you want to appease everybody.
And I'd like to say that happens more in high school and undergrad, which I think it does, but I'm sure that happens in professional settings as well. Because like,
Oh yeah.
there's definitely those people who just don't want to be the bad guy, even
Mhm.
though it's needed for you just to put your foot down and be like, all right, we're doing this.
And then there's the guy who just doesn't give a fuck and it's like,
Mhm.
no, we're gonna do this instead. Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. That's a
Dude,
good
that
idea.
guy's
Yeah.
got balls the size of fucking Mars.
Dude, and he has no fucking care about what's going on too. He's like, no, shit happens, whatever, but this is what we're doing.
And I think that comes from experience, honestly. Like
Yeah, I'm
he's
sure
he's
it
probably
does.
like I mean, it's he or she, they like
Yeah.
they've probably like experienced this before, and they're like, I know where this is going.
I don't
no,
like it.
no.
Well, and that was me in labbing this week because I saw what happened last semester when we had these kind of larger goals and nothing. I feel like not a lot got done. And so this week I'm like, yo, like we need to make some small groups. We need to like write down exactly what our objectives are, assign people to them, make sure we have like a more what's the correct term, experienced person in the lab in each group. Because if it's all newbies, like I said, no one's gonna feel like they have the authority to do anything.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's important that everyone feels like included, and their opinion can be heard. But at some point, you just need a small group to just make some decisions.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean-
sometimes like the best leaders are ones that are okay taking those sacrifices, right? Like, I mean, you want to be heard, but sometimes it's just like, we're gonna go with this option. It's nothing personal, but this makes more sense.
Nothing personnel, kid.
Kid. Haha.
I mean, I could argue we saw this firsthand with our chores list at the house.
Oh yeah.
Where like, oh, I don't want to clean the second floor bathroom, but I know Dayton's got it next. He's gonna clean the second floor bathroom. I won't clean it this week. He won't even notice, and he'll clean it for me because
Mhm.
I only want to do this thing.
Vacuum
you
the
know?
stairs.
Yeah, and like,
The accountable people get fucked over in that sort of process.
well, yeah.
So yeah, you don't get any
Which we
reward for
found
being
out.
accountable. You know?
Well, we kind of mitigate that by just having one person do the same chore every month. Like, okay, you're just doing this for the rest of the time, and that way, if
Which
it didn't
only
get done,
led
we knew the
to
person
I
to
know
blame.
I'm doing it, so I don't need to do it this week. It's not that bad. I'll just do it again next week. And you
Yeah.
know,
That's also fair. But at least like there was a person to yell at if something
yeah,
wasn't getting done. But yeah, no, and then we had 7-8 people, and like
yeah,
it's also hard with like in that situation to like, okay, is every chore like equal? Is
Yeah.
everyone an equal amount of work? And that happens a lot of projects as well. It's like, okay, are we
Damn,
really splitting
dude.
this equally?
I should have gotten away with not have to do chores because I had a monthly chore of paying the bills.
Yeah.
you poor thing.
Yeah. Poor
I
thing.
should have not had to
It-
do anything.
when you took off and went to New Zealand, we still figured it out.
Yeah, you delegated my chores.
Well, yeah, you gave it to me. I did the.
Yeah, I love delegating. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty good delegator. It's not because like I want to get rid of all the shit and pass that to somebody else. I just like in my senior design project. I feel like we had it like fucking down. So we had 4 people and we are all good at different things. So like depending on what the type of task was, we assigned it to that person, and it worked out fucking great. And I just really enjoy when like things work out efficiently like that. But yeah, if you get into a thing where there's too many people, and it just gets really hairy really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Yeah.
I hope y'all listening don't have any really bad group projects right now, and really shit groups where nobody's doing anything. Because
Or if you do, just delegate. Just
delegate.
put your foot fucking down and tell them, hey, kiss my ass, go pound sand. This is what we're fucking doing. Because half the time they'll either say fuck you, or they'll do it.
I think people roll over more often than they'll say fuck you. Too.
I agree, but there's a solid chance they'll.
There is also the chance where they'll roll over and they say they'll do it, and then you get to the next meeting and they haven't done it yet. And it's like, you
Slackers.
fucking bitch.
Fucking
Yeah,
slackers.
For sure.
yeah. I'd like to say it's only happens in high school and undergrad, and
No, it doesn't. It happens everywhere.
No, it's still
yeah,
there.
it's the rest of your life. As long as you're part of a big corporation, fucking corporate shills.
Yeet.
All right, well, that's our episode for this week. Thank you so much for listening. As always, follow us on Instagram at ewfpodcast. Follow us on Twitch at ewf_podcast. And find our show on all podcast services and on YouTube on Monday mornings. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.